In the Town of Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting for May 7th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
We have the minutes from April 2nd. Did anyone submit any edits or changes?
I did not receive any.
Nothing?
We're good.
In that case, I move to approve the minutes of April 2nd as written. A second, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to take a business item out of the agenda at the bottom, and we're going to take that first, and that will be the bridal crossing discussion of deed and declaration restriction. And are Mr. Sealand and Mr. Zimmer there on Zoom?
This is John Zimmer. I am here. I'm not sure if Kevin is on yet or not.
Okay, it doesn't look like,
I thought I saw his truck out there.
oh, is he inside? No.
I thought I saw him too.
Okay, in that case,
I could probably start us off.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
And then, when Kevin arrives, if you guys have questions for Kevin when he gets here, if that's okay with you.
Looks like they're
that's,
Here come some
coming down
people
the
now.
hallway.
that's okay. Go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is John Zimmer with South River Environmental. I'm assisting Mr. Sealand and Bridal Crossing LLC with their Natural Heritage Conservation and Management Permit. So there are two items that we wanted to discuss. The first is the quicker of the two. We did submit a request for determination of applicability, which is going to be heard on the 21st. And that is with respect to a wetland area that was previously shown on the original site plans, which was, I think, identified back in, probably 15 years or so ago. I went back out there. There's a small patch of Phragmites, but it doesn't meet the 50% vegetation requirement. So the RDA is basically to confirm that there are no jurisdictional wetland resource areas out there. And then with respect to that, I'm happy to coordinate a site walk with the commission or with Mike to take a look at it in advance of the hearing on the 21st.
Thank you.
Okay. The second item that we wanted to discuss was with respect to the Natural Heritage Conservation and Management Permit. I'm not sure how much the commission is aware of this. We did submit a copy of it, of the application package to the commission when we submitted to Natural Heritage. I can give a quick overview if you'd like, or I can dive right into it, whatever you prefer.
Why don't you start with a quick overview?
Okay. The entire site is mapped as eastern box turtle habitat. So in order to develop a portion of the property, we need to obtain what's called a conservation and management permit from Natural Heritage. And what that does is that allows for the development of a portion of the property. Typically, it's 30 to 50% with associated impact mitigation to ensure that at the end of the day, there's a net benefit to the species. So we're in the process of that right now with Natural Heritage. There was originally work done back when Mr. Armstrong owned the property and was looking to put soccer fields in. This is a new application with Natural Heritage for the proposed project. So if you'll see on the site plan here, there's the development area to the south, and then you can see the shaded area basically around the remainder of the property. So what we've done is, for mitigation for the species, is take the acreage that's affected and then multiply that by 1.5 to obtain an acreage of habitat that's to be protected in perpetuity and improved. So the area that you see to the north, right now, I'm not sure if folks have been out to the site or not, but it's not great. It's been worked over. There's a lot of debris out there. It's not, excellent habitat for eastern box turtles. There are turtles out there for sure. I did find, I think it was 10 or 12 of them out there last year when I did surveys to clear the project area. But what we're proposing to do in working with Natural Heritage is to improve the habitat within the property. So you can see those light green shaded areas. The gray areas are going to be protected nesting habitat. There's going to be some structure added out there. And then there's going to be a variety of other habitats from meadow through mid-successional and then forested habitat, so that at the end of the day, you're going to have a mix of habitat that's going to be protected and managed in perpetuity, to allow for that habitat for the turtles to be maintained. Part of the conservation and management permit process is ensuring that those acres are protected basically in perpetuity. There's a couple different mechanisms to do that. One of them is a conservation restriction on the property. And we did look at that. It's oftentimes very difficult to find an entity to hold the conservation restriction, as the commission may be aware. The other option that we looked at and are proposing is to basically deed over that entire shaded area to the Conservation Commission. So basically create a separate lot and basically donate that to the commission. We did provide some documentation to that effect along with the meets and bounds plan. There is going to need to be ongoing habitat management and monitoring out there. That would be on the applicant to do that. There'd be no requirements for the Conservation Commission, to put out any money or do any of the management. There's an escrow account being set up by the Homeowners Association to fund those habitat management improvements and monitoring. And that will be done through the life of the conservation and management permit. So what we wanted to do tonight was introduce this to the commission, get an initial feel from you, I guess, as to whether or not this is something that the commission would be amenable to, and answer any preliminary questions that you may have. One of the things that we do need to get, if the commission does decide that this is something that, they would like to do and take ownership of, we would need to get documentation of a formal vote from the commission, which we would hope could occur on the 21st, and provide that to Natural Heritage. The process for the deed conveyance takes a little while, and will be done, concurrent with or after the project is completed. To ensure that acreage is protected, there would be a declaration of restriction placed on it. So during the time that the project is being completed, and we're waiting on the kind of legal process to go through with the property conveyance, that declaration of restriction would ensure that the habitat management gets completed and that there's no additional development or activities within the property during that time. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have a couple of other folks from the project team, including Kayla Sepulveda, who is the land use attorney for the project, and Darren Grady, who is the engineer. I'm not sure if, I don't see Kevin on, but
Kevin
maybe
is, Mr. Sealand is here in the room.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
I'm
All right. So
going to invite,
all the difficult questions you can send, Kevin.
would you please come over and you've heard most of what John has told us.
Right, so I'm Kevin Sealand, Meadow Crossing LLC manager. And yeah, so I gave you a package, several documents, as John mentioned. One's the declaration restriction. I don't know if he mentioned, but all of these documents are in their format. They gave us this format. So would like to try and stay as close to that as you can. I would assume that you would have town council look at all of these. The declaration restriction has the most information in it. It lists prohibitive uses, for instance, for all that 9 acres. No structures, pesticides are not allowed. Non-invasive species have to be kept to a minimum as possible. Domestic animals and livestock can't be kept. You can put walking trails. You can use it for passive recreation, hiking. those kind of things. So you should take a minute to go through that and just make sure you're comfortable with everything that's in there. If there's something you don't like, because it's gonna be forever, we need to know now, you know? And we could, I'm sure we have some flexibility with Heritage with that. One of the other documents was a copy of the deed. I imagine, again, town council will take a look at that. And then the escrow agreement, we have to put up 25,000 in advance, and then we have to put up and keep 5,000, I believe is the way it works, for 25 years minimum to maintain the property. It's gonna be fenced. It shows the fence. I don't know if John mentioned that. If you look close to the plan, you'll see what we'd like to do is a split rail fence, which I think we mentioned in our meeting at Mike Maresco's office.
You did.
That's about a month ago, maybe. So the bottom third of the fence will be some kind of chain link, something to keep the animals from going through. And I think that'll look a lot nicer than a 4-foot chain link fence. Let me see what else I had. So yeah, it's a pretty aggressive policy that they have. So it's a 15-acre parcel. We're developing 6 acres, almost exactly. And it's 9 acres that will be deeded to the commission. So 1.5 to 1 is what the ratio is. That is about it. So yeah, so we'd like to just take your temperature, I guess, is a way to say what we'd like to do tonight, and have Michael go through the file pretty good maybe and take a look, and if we need anything else to you before the 21st, I'd like to get that so that we can get our RDA decided on the 21st.
Sure. Has this been given to town council?
I don't believe town council's reviewed this at the moment. We can send it for his review before the 21st.
Yeah, we need to get that to him immediately.
And the 21st isn't, it's not a drop dead date. I mean,
No, but
you know, so it's. we
better
need
for
more
everyone
time.
to,
Right,
yeah,
right,
move
keep-
along. Does anybody on the commission have any questions?
I've got one. What's the status of that, I guess it's an incomplete stormwater basin?
That's a good question. So there's 2 basins there. There's a sediment forebay, and then it flows from that. And that water, it receives water from like Waltham Ave, and I think it's called the Silver Pines Hill.
Yeah.
Comes down across Ferry Street, it goes into the sediment forebay, and then the overflow pipe takes it into another detention basin. So that detention basin needs a overflow, for emergency overflow. So that would, it doesn't show on that plan, it does show on the, I'll make a note to get that to you. It does show on the ZBA plans, the full plans for Bridle Crossing.
Now,
That's a
within-
12-inch pipe.
That would be within that shaded area that's supposed to be.
It'd be underground, so it wouldn't really affect any of the surface work that we do. Obviously, we'd have to put that in first. It's approximately, about the 3rd point in the property, heading up from where we're gonna develop northerly. I'll get that plan too.
Yeah, I think to get an understanding of that would be important,
Yeah.
to know what that's gonna be.
Yeah, it'll be an underground pipe, it'll have riprap at the end of it, 12-inch, and it shouldn't really flow any water. I could talk to Rod. I thought the last time I talked to him, he told me that detention basin has never overtopped, so it seems to take the water pretty good, and it's got a lot of vegetation in it.
Well, I guess it would be more of a question for him, but is there anything else on the other side up in Silver Pines that they need to tie into that, or?
I don't know. Yeah, it's more of a question for him. I don't believe they have any problems up there right now with drainage, but I'm really not sure. What's interesting too is this land that you'll be getting does abut other town land. To the east, there's a piece the town of Marshfield now has, and to the west, all the way to the bridle path, the actual old railroad grade, that's all town of Marshfield. And of course, back toward the south is the landfill that's now a solar park. And that's about it.
And then the salt shed, right?
And the salt shed is-
DPW?
Just off the plan, it's to the bottom left corner of the plan. That is some work that I am gonna talk to Rod about. He's gotta do like a little sediment forebay there or something for that stormwater capture coming off that salt shed area, and I told them I'd work with them possibly, but that work would be done on town property near the bridle path, kind of off the plan to the west.
That's all I have.
Okay. So your first choice is to approach it this way and have the Conservation Commission accept it with an escrow account versus trying to find a CR holder and go through the whole CR process.
Correct. Now, I think I mentioned last time, I did have a conversation with Scott McFadden from the
At
Wildlands
Wildlands?
Trust. And he didn't say yes, he didn't say no. But I'd rather, I mean, with this other land that's abutting and it would attach to this, that the town of Marshfield already owns, I just think it makes more sense to give it to the town of Marshfield. I know Greg Guimont over in planning, he liked the idea. He was pushing that over the conservation restriction. And frankly, the conservation restriction is more expensive.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but
Yeah.
it is significantly
It-
more
it is,
expensive.
it is.
I understand that, yeah. Do you have anything, Mike, that you want to point out or ask, or?
The allowable uses on the property would be in line with other conservation lands. There is adjacent conservation, town-owned land to this property. My question would be, would just be to ensure that if something were to ever happen to the LLC, that that the Conservation Commission wouldn't have to essentially shell out for the maintenance and management of that parcel.
I would expect Attorney Galvin
Yeah.
to
Mm,
be aware of that, but
Good
yeah,
point, yeah.
that's a point. Okay. Anyone else here?
No.
Anyone else who's part of the team want to say anything? We've heard from John, and he said there's other people on there.
So one of the plans I gave you in the packet was the A&R plan. So that would have to be signed by the planning board, approved by them. And then that would be the plan that get recorded with the deed, transferring the property to you. And the timing of such, John mentioned it, but he didn't get into the details. It'd probably be about a year from now, because we need at least 1 or 2 growing seasons, maybe even the fall of 2026. Because we have to get all the plantings and everything in place. Want to go probably through a couple of growing seasons. And remember, we can't work in that area when the turtles
Are
are moving around.
right. Yeah, there's time of year restrictions.
Right.
And, yeah, I'm sure we would impose some term of monitoring ourselves. We typically do that with a mitigation or restoration, or
Okay.
so.
Just have one question. Sure. So is the RDA to donate the land, or is the RDA to confirm the wetland boundary?
I think it's
Yeah,
both. But
The
John,
RDA is to basically confirm the absence of jurisdictional resource areas. So it really has nothing to do with the land advance.
So should we here have the site checked for wetlands?
Has it ever been delineated?
on the plan, go ahead, John.
Yeah, there was a small isolated area located kind of in the central portion of the northern property boundary. And that was the area that it was delineated, I want to say back in the early 2000s. So I went back and looked at it, and that there's some Phragmites that's growing up there, but it didn't have, 50% or more wetland vegetation when you looked at all of the different layers. So that's pretty much the reason that we just wanted to confirm that, because it was shown on older plans. And, if it was determined to be jurisdictional, then some of the habitat improvements would be located within a 100-foot buffer. So we would need to come back to the commission to get approval to do that. But, it's my opinion that there are no wetland resources out there. I'm happy to walk it with Mike to review it as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it was mapped as wetlands before, then maybe we should just double check to, I mean, if there's soil, do you have soil samples? Or,
Soils are basically irrelevant with respect to the bylaw. So, I mean, it is a disturbed site, so I guess you could look at soils, but the soils are not wet out there either. And I would encourage a field review to take a look at it, you know, with Mike and or the commission, so that, you know, you guys are comfortable with it.
I think it would be beneficial to have a site visit with
Absolutely.
as many of us as we can arrange. And would you meet us, John, and walk us through?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's try to set that up, Mike.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm good with this. We'll digest all of this and check in with town council and visit it, and hopefully by the 21st, we'll be up to speed and can come to a decision on whatever it is we need to do.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't got a lot to discuss until we can actually read it.
Yeah.
See what's there.
Yeah, go over it all.
That's fine.
Okay,
All right, thank you for sneaking
thank
me
you
in
for
here.
the
Thank you.
information ahead of time. That's
Thank you, everyone.
helpful, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yep, take care.
Okay, now we will go to our public hearings, the first of which is 278 Ocean Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the jetty. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Okay, thank you. Mike, can you confirm that all administrative requirements have been met on this?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay. Is there someone here to present this? No. Anyone on Zoom here to present for the jetty? Okay.
Do you want to go through it, or I can? Or?
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen up here, there's some proposed modifications to the jetty, which include adding granite slabs in the ground and keeping compacted gravel around those slabs, to add some granite posts, to add a granite curb on either side, and to create kind of like a planting bed in the front between this compacted walkway and some handicap parking. And then there are also some bollards and what do you call them? Mooring cleats, like large kind of antique mooring cleats, to be used as fencing as well. There's no real changes to the impervious table for this project, as they're asking to keep the compacted bluestone type gravel on the property.
Okay. So I went out there, I don't really have an issue with this. The only thing I know, you mentioned a comment about they're going to be using the reclaimed asphalt on the walkway area, so between the granite slabs. And that was the only real concern, because over time that can become just as impervious as regular. But there's no one really here to discuss this with.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have a set of the building commissioner's comments?
Yes.
Yeah, he also had a concern about the bollards and the cleats and the planters, I believe, being able to be moved around in potential flooding. I know in the package, though, they did say that they were going down a certain amount to actually secure them. But I don't know if that was for everything, because also in the package, it did say that the planters were movable. They're pretty large.
Seems like some more information is needed from the applicant to move forward on this one.
Right. He also mentioned that a site plan would be nice on this as well. So, yeah.
Continue it.
Excuse me?
Should we continue it then?
That might be the best idea.
Okay. All right, then. So I don't have to ask for any comments or anything from.
No, you can
So we're
just
gonna
move to
it.
continue.
Okay. All right, and I'm gonna move to continue, the hearing to, May 21st, correct?
Yep.
I believe that's the next date.
Yes.
All right. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Next up is 15 Brook Street. This is a new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wetlands Protection Act and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed for 15 Brook Street. And the hearing officer is, once again, Commissioner Platt.
Thank you. Mike, can you confirm that all administrative requirements have been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, so this work is located within buffer zone to Barrier Beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, zone AO3. Is there someone here to present this project?
Good evening, yes, Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. So this is a single-family dwelling, fairly straightforward project. It's in the FEMA AO3 zone. The proposed scope of work would be installation of erosion controls as detailed on the site plan. The proposed scope of work also includes installation of 7 sonotubes for a new deck in the rear, which is denoted on the plan. The front portion, there would be 9 new sonotubes and a new deck area. That's also denoted on the plans. The front steps would have to be removed, and then obviously the new deck installed with new steps. There's also proposed for a new covered porch / entryway with a bump out, and that's denoted in blue. And then there's some increase in proposed hot mix asphalt, and you can see that hatched in green. There is a minimal increase in impervious due to the proposed covered porch entry and the hot mix asphalt. That's really the scope of the work. Very, very straightforward. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mike, do you have any comments?
Yes, the the property is located within an AO flood zone and across the street from a mapped Barrier Beach coastal dune. Unlike other properties around this area, the parcel is entirely disturbed, meaning there's an entire, the whole parcel's been grass for quite some time, maintained lawn area, and the decks are proposed to be supported by sonotube footings, and they would be expanded to the dimensions that you can see on the screen here.
Okay,
And the building commissioner has no issues with this project.
right. Okay, so when I think I had read it differently on the notes, but so the front porch here is actually, this is a completely new deck. There's no deck out there right now. That's gonna be a 30 by 8. And then in the back, that's that deck's going to be removed and then redone a little bit larger than the existing. And then the mud, I'm just kind of talking out loud here, but the mudroom, that's an addition with the covered porch on the front of that. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And there is a 357 square foot increase of impervious structures. Is the concrete driveway that's out against Foster Ave, I'm assuming that's their driveway, correct? So they have two?
Let me just orient myself to the site plan. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's really used for, overflow parking and then access to the backyard as needed. Because it's fenced in.
Okay. Do you know if they would be open to maybe removing that concrete drive and making it into a gravel? Or asking that question? Just to offset
I believe the owner, one of the owners is present, Janet Penza. She should be there at the meeting. I don't know how important that is to them, but we can certainly ask her.
Yeah, so.
Do you want to come up and,
Yeah, sure.
if you want to? Just state your name and your address, please.
Janet Penza, 15 Brook Street, Marshfield.
You have a beautiful home, by the way.
Thank you, love it. So it's the one that's on
So the-
Foster? Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's kind of in the back there.
Yeah, so what's the, I don't understand the
I just,
reasoning.
so right now it's a
Curious.
impervious surface. And so I was, since you are increasing the pervious area with the decks, I was just wondering if you'd be open to getting rid of that concrete and actually making that like a gravel or shell or something like that so that the water can permeate
So it's,
through.
it's asphalt, right? Is that the same thing as concrete? No.
It's
That-
an impervious
It's
surface.
still, yeah, they're
Yeah.
both,
Okay, just want
Yeah.
to make sure we're talking about the right
Yep,
thing. Yeah,
yeah.
so, I mean, I don't think we'd have any problems doing that.
okay. Commissioners, do you have any comments or do you think that's a reasonable?
If they're willing.
Yeah.
That would be great. We encourage allowing water to infiltrate wherever we can to,
Okay.
mitigate hazardous conditions and floods or whatever.
The increase is largely due to the deck. Beneath the deck is gonna be pervious, right? Gravel or grass, right?
I'm assuming.
So the deck will be pervious. There'll be gap spaces between deck members and there'll be pervious materials underneath. So really the increase in impervious is the bump out of the porch and then the increase in the driveway width denoted in green. And I think a large percentage of that square footage of increase in impervious from the driveway will be offset by the concrete driveway being changed to pervious. So I think that's a great idea.
The front deck, yeah, I was looking at that and to me, it's gonna be minimal height off the ground there. Not that, you are correct, yes. But if that's something that you'd be open to, that would be great.
Is that a condition of?
It would be, we would have it added to the RDA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, the DOA. Is there anybody on Zoom that has any comments, questions?
Could I make
Anything
one
else?
more
Yeah.
point? I think it might be beneficial to show the placement of the sonotubes on the plan. Could you do that?
I could do that. I also have the architectural plans which have all those.
If we have them on the
I could share
architectural.
it, I could share it right on the screen, or I could, pass that to Mike and Liz as a copy for the file. No
Yeah,
problem.
that would be fine, just, sometimes going forward, things like that get lost track of, and We like to have as accurate a plan as possible on file.
Absolutely, I'll get that to Mike and Liz, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, did you state your comments on these already?
Yeah, I would suggest the following special conditions for the cover letter on this permit, to ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator agent for guidance on work beyond the approved work activities. And that caveat about replacing the impervious material for the Foster Ave driveway with pervious material.
Great. All right. Then I move to close the hearing and issue a determination of applicability with a +5 and a -2. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, you're
Thank
good
you
to
very
go.
much.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Enjoy.
Thank you,
It'll
have
be
a great
nice.
night.
Thanks, Jed.
Okay. Next up is 36 Crane Road.
Yes.
So we will need Commissioner Malafront to recuse himself. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Sam Malafront of 36 Crane Road. And Commissioner O'Donnell is the hearing officer.
Okay, Mike, all our conditions have been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay. So you're still here, though? Is anyone going to present this project?
Me.
Okay, so, usually when we recuse ourselves, we usually leave the room, but this
know.
is your project, so.
Yeah. Sam Alfronti, 36 Crane Road. So the project proposes just a landing off the deck with stairs to the backyard. I was before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit about 3 weeks ago now, and I have that approval, so. There is some minor regrading. I think you guys both went out to the site, Craig and John. It slopes steeply to the west, so there's going to be a little bit of regrading there to allow it to be kind of passable, or more accessible, I should say. There is on the adjoining property to the west, there's an existing drainage conveyance. There's kind of a yard drain out across the street in the woods, basically, that collects water and conveys it to this property. I've been told by neighbors that the town has an easement over this conveyance, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And then Mike suggested that there's likely hydric soils in the area, so he recommended getting an RDA for this. There's going to be, it's concrete sonotubes. I've actually met with a couple contractors this week. They think I don't need as many footings as I
Okay.
have on the plan, so it'll likely be less than, they were thinking more like 4 total footings, so. But that'll be confirmed with Andrew when I submit a building permit, so.
Okay. All right, yeah, I was out to the property. It looks like a pretty straightforward, project. It's provides access and egress to the house that doesn't
Yeah.
otherwise exist. So I didn't see any issues or problems with the project. Borders vegetated wetlands, but that's not an issue. Does anybody have any questions or project on the project? Michael, do you have any comments?
Yes, this
suggestions?
is over a pre-disturbed lawn area. It would use a maximum of 9 sonotube footings, 12-inch in diameter, and then also a landing at the base of the stairs. The whole side of the yard here is pre-disturbed. It's manicured lawn type area. There's an outdoor shower there. This would just be to essentially improve egress from the porch and essentially have a new way into the home, as well as kind of improving the side yard there.
Okay. Anybody in the audience or on Zoom have any questions or comments? All right. So, hearing no comments or questions, I move that we issue a determination of applicability with a +5, because the work is subject to review and approval by the commission, and a -2, because the work will not alter the subject area, and therefore the work does not require a NOI. So I make a motion that we issue the DOA with a +5 and a -2. Do I have a second?
Second?
Oh, sorry.
I was
Mike.
just gonna read some suggested conditions.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
Fine.
Sorry.
To ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to seek the conservation administrator or agent for guidance beyond the approved work activities.
Okay, so I'm still going to make the same motion, that we issue the DOA with a +5 and a -2. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Okay. And this is Commissioner RDA night. Next up is 34 Liberty Road, and that is,
I think it's me.
yeah, I'm just looking for my packet. Okay. You will need, are you going to present for yourself? or-
Yes, I am.
Okay, you are.
Yep.
But you will recuse
Yep,
from the
recusing,
vote.
Yep.
Okay. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Jesse Platt of 34 Liberty Road. The hearing officer is Commissioner Miles.
Okay, so your property, 34 Liberty Road, is in land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to the salt marsh. You want to talk about your project?
Sure. Jesse Platt, 34 Liberty Road. So pretty straightforward. It's a chain link fence that goes in the backyard along the salt marsh there, and then a wooden panel fence that goes up to the east and around to the house. And we are just, it's corroded and broken. The wooden panels are falling over, the gates completely rotted out. It was there when we moved in, and we're just looking to replace it with the same material, same place, complete one-to-one replacement.
The building commissioner provided some comments that it does have an active floodplain permit, does not require zoning relief. Chain link and solid wall fences can be prone to trapping debris, but for floodplain management purposes in this location, he does not think that it'll lead to harmful diversion of floodwaters or cause any damage, so he has no issues with this project. So, I would have no problem issuing a DOA for this. Mike, did you have any special conditions?
Yeah, I would suggest the following. To ensure best management practices are followed before commencing work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator or agent for work beyond the approved work activities.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to issue the DOA, with a +5, -2. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is 0 Texas Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, in the Select Board's hearing room, to consider the notice of intent filed by Greg Morse on behalf of ZORJ Holdings. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
So I recognize Mr. Morse, so the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing Zorge Holdings LLC. This is a notice of intent that's filed for property off of Texas Street, which is in the Kent Park neighborhood. This is a street improvement plan associated with the portion of Texas Street that is not constructed, as well as single-family home construction for one single-family house on parcel I-11-2409, which is a residential lot of record, 12,000 square feet in size. In review of the existing conditions at this site, the property is not located within a FEMA flood zone. There's no endangered species mapped on the site. There are no vernal pools in the area, and it's not within an area of critical environmental concern. We've gone out to the site. We've done soil testing witnessed by the Board of Health. We conducted 4 test pits on the site with very sandy soil, perk rates all passing between 2 and 3 minutes per inch. We did an additional 2 test pits underneath the Texas Street right-of-way, which had similar soil characteristics. On the plan here on the screen, you'll see at the top left of the page is highlighted in blue. That's a bordering vegetated wetland that was delineated by Brad Holmes, who's a professional wetland scientist. That BVW contains runoff, which ultimately conveys through a culvert underneath Wellington Ave, and then conveys out to the salt marsh associated with the South River. The proposal that you see, the proposed work on the plan here, highlighted in gray or shaded in gray, is the proposed home location. The home itself is 76 feet away from the BVW at its closest point, and the limit of work on the lot associated with the single-family home is located a minimum of 50 feet from the BVW. The lot would have its own on-site septic system and would be serviced by municipal water with a connection out to Texas Street. The Texas Street road improvement is a 20-foot pavement, which would start on Washington and extend in approximately 175 feet to access this lot. The 20-foot wide of pavement has a Cape Cod berm on each side, has 2 catch basins, a particle separator, and subsurface leaching chambers to comply with DEP stormwater standards. For mitigation, at the down gradient limit of work, we've proposed erosion control barriers. We've also proposed conservation posts within the limit of Texas Street at the 25-foot setback for Texas Street and at the 50-foot setback on the residential lot. I'm going to turn it over to you for questions or comments. I do expect that we will be continuing this hearing, though. We are going to the zoning board next week, and we have a date in early June with the planning board. So I'd look to continue to your early June meeting, conclusion of tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, your comments, particularly on the wetland delineations?
Yes, so there was a prior wetland delineation from about 20 years ago, I believe it was 2004, noting a small isolated vegetated wetland in this area. When I performed my site visit, I did not note one in existence in that area. Wetlands can often shrink or grow over time, so it's not too unusual. I didn't. Additionally, while viewing the property, it became clear there's a question about frontage on the road, which I wasn't necessarily, I didn't see outlined in the waiver request. Do you know how much frontage is needed in an R2 zoning district for that road?
So typically in an R2 zone, you have, I believe it's 100 feet of frontage. In this case here, where this is a residential lot of record, the requirement is to construct 50 feet of frontage, which is exactly what we're proposing. We're proposing the minimum amount.
Okay.
You have anything else, Mike?
No.
Okay, as far as the residential lot of record, has that been confirmed through town council?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And I assume that'll be reviewed by planning and ZBA also. So
That's correct.
not too concerned about that. On Brad Holmes' note about the delineation, he has a comment about the beginning of the road off Washington. Not quite, I can't quite read his whole note, but marginal spot, no wetlands. That was the area that was delineated as an isolated wetland 20 years ago.
Yes.
So,
So I can add to that a little bit. You know, I researched all the abutting properties, and yes, there was an isolated wetland that was identified there on a previous plan. I had Brad specifically look at that location. He did 2 soil samples out there. He also looked at vegetation. It was non-hydric soil, and the vegetation wasn't 50% or more wetland at that location. When I went out with the Board of Health, I did 2 additional test pits as a DEP soil evaluator within that right-of-way. I did not have hydric soils in that location either. This Conservation Commission changed its definition of wetlands approximately 5 years ago with the updates of the regulations that were done. Previous versions of the wetland regulations had a definition of isolated wetland which was strictly based off of a land area holding, 400 square feet minimum of water. Under the new regulations, you have those minimums, but it also added that you have to have vegetation and soil to support it. And in this case here, you don't have those. So while there may have been a vegetated wetland there at one point previously, I don't think it meets today's definition, and I think that's what Mr. Holmes is getting at.
so those 2 points, that's GM 1 and 2 on the drawing?
Those are the 2 that I did. Mr. Holmes hung 2 yellow flags out there where he took his soil samples. They're not depicted on this plan, but he took 2 additional soil samples out there himself. That area on Texas Street certainly is a kind of a low-lying area. It does collect runoff from Washington. It collects runoff from both abutters on both sides as well. The proposed street improvement has drainage which handles all of the roadway system that's being proposed. I have spoken with one of the abutters, Mr. Creed, about his concern. I know he submitted a letter to the commission, and I'm looking into the flooding that he has documented from April 2024 in that location to see if there's anything further that we can add which would help mitigate any flooding that's in that area, but it doesn't identify as a wetland.
Okay, thanks. I am a little concerned about the delineation, seeing as 20 years ago, conservation denied it based on a wetland there. I don't have enough qualifications to, I walked the site.
I asked,
You have
what
a
did
point?
conservation deny 20 years ago? I wasn't aware of anything, because there's a brand-new house, well, not a brand-new house, but there's a house that has the wetland shown from 20 years ago. Was there a project that was denied at this location?
Yes, very similar to this one.
On this property?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, same owners, 2005.
I was not aware of that when I looked at the records. Okay,
As
okay.
That's SE 421914.
Got it.
I know Commissioner Hannafin took a look out there. Did any of the other commissioners get a look at it?
I don't know.
Well, we know we're gonna continue anyway, because we don't have, we don't know what's gonna happen with the planning and ZBA. I would have concerns with flooding. The wetlands delineation, I think, for the next time you come in front of us, the rest of us will take a look. And I think there's a possibility we could want a third party to take a look at it and verify what we have there. I don't know if we want to go forward with that now or wait.
In the interest of time, if the commission thinks they want to engage a third party to take a look at the wetland areas out here, let's please move forward with that, time-wise, not to delay the project.
Okay.
Where in, is it between GM1 and GM2?
It's
Roughly.
that general
Yeah,
area, I guess.
Yeah.
I think you've got this in your
Yeah.
package
Yeah.
too, Sam, but that's, I didn't even notice that until today, that he's got the note, that's the marginal
I
wetland.
saw that yellow
And
line.
that's where, on the previous denial, they've got an isolated wetland there.
Okay. I mean, I think it would be a decent idea potentially to have someone look at it. I think Brad Holmes is a reputable delineator, so I don't think he's.
Well, that's why I would not myself try to refute anything that Brad said.
Yeah, agreed.
But to have a peer review.
Yeah.
And also, Greg, that would encompass this possible isolated wetland too, right? Not just the,
So, yeah, Brad didn't identify that it was an isolated vegetated wetland at that location. And I'm expecting that that's because of the change in the regulations that was made about 5 years ago, specifically the definition of an isolated wetland, which changed when you updated your regulations.
I also, whether that be an isolated wetland or not, I mean, it's likely under 5,000 square feet, regardless, right?
yeah, the
Likely.
trouble is, they've got very limited area for mitigation.
Yeah. Mike, have you went up?
I've gone out there.
What was your opinion on that?
I didn't note any wetland immediately in that area. I also didn't take a look at the soil in between those two test pits, so I don't have a sample from that general area.
Other commissioners have comments on this?
I think it would be worth having a third party just to,
Yeah, you've expressed that you'd like to move that forward,
Yeah.
Greg. And
We would, just
Okay.
to quell any
And
questions.
just to qualify, this third party would also take a look at that area on the way in, that
Absolutely.
Brad has noted that it is marginal.
Absolutely.
Okay. And, we've got a procedure for selecting a third party, and I would make a motion, we move forward with that. Let's not take a vote now, though. Any other comments from commissioners? Probably time to open it up to public comments. Sir?
I'm the aforementioned abutter, James F. Creed Jr., at 36 Washington Ave. My house is the one that's at the bottom right of the plan. In the letter that I submitted to you dated May 5th, I gave you the Marshfield GIS, which indicates this area is inland wetland. I also, although I'm not a wetland scientist, I've lived there for over 30 years, and I gave you a picture of what typically happens in April of 2024. At its deepest point, that ponding was about a foot deep in the center, right along Texas Street, right about the center line. And it varies in its size depending upon the saturation of the ground. Groundwater is very high in Kent Park. This particular area is upland. We're outside of all of the FEMA areas. However, when we get certain conditions, and it can happen any time of the year. I've had this happen in the summer, I've had it happen in November, and I especially have it happen in the spring. My sump pump will stop working and pump water back into the house. And then I have to take it and switch over to a hose, have it go out my doghouse in the back and feed that pond, which is kind of recycling the water because eventually it ends up back in my basement anyway. However, although I'm not a wetland scientist, I know water when I see it, and I regularly see this water in that spot. It can be a small pond, it can be a large pond. The April 2024 ponding that I gave you a picture of, that was an especially large version of the ponding that we experience in this spot. So if it's not a wetland by your definition, something has to be done about that water. The road will be elevated, it will shed water to me. The house to the north, because the septic system was built up, they're not going to get that water. I'm going to get it. And so if this project goes forward, that water has to be dealt with. And when you go forward with this, I think that Greg needs to show you the entirety of the road, not just that portion of the road. The road he's specifically proposing to build by way of a street improvement plan with the planning board. I think you need to see the whole project, where all the drainage is going to be going and where it's going to be, piped out to. I assume it's going into the wetland to the west toward Wellington. But that's my overarching concern, is that I can't take any more of the water that regularly ponds in that area when we have certain conditions, like heavy snow with rain. That's the most frequent opportunity for that ponding to exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, would you like to address that?
No, I hear the concern, and I saw the letter and the photo, and it's something I'll certainly look into.
Could I,
Go ahead.
we got kind of sidetracked on that isolated wetland. I had two questions. So the stormwater, it's in our jurisdiction, it's in the buffer. The stormwater system for the Texas Street, there's no, what storm event is that size for?
So it's size for the 25-year storm.
Okay. And then the other thing that kind of jogged my memory when the gentleman was just speaking, would the road, as most roads created when they were built, it kind of dams portions of this, especially with the driveway. Would inclusion of some sort of culvert beneath the driveway be something that you could?
That's exactly what I'm going to look into, because you're correct. As we raise this road up, it essentially creates a dam from the Creed's property as stormwater runs off toward the wetland. So I've thought about adding a culvert underneath the driveway, to help relieve that.
Yeah, and I think that, realistically, it could be improved, because I think in existing conditions, it's naturally dammed, it seems, from that septic system. So it actually likely will be an improvement to existing conditions with that culvert potentially. So
Yeah, that's something that we're actively looking at.
okay.
So that culvert would
Would essentially run from the front right corner of this lot over toward the 50-foot buffer zone or the 25-foot buffer zone. It would be a culvert underneath the driveway, so that if there was any ponding in that corner, the back of the property, it would convey toward the wetlands rather than being dammed by the street or dammed by the driveway itself.
Okay, that's not a particularly large wetland, but you say that that's connected to a culvert that runs out to the marsh?
It is. There's a relatively recent culvert underneath Wellington that was installed, I would estimate, in the last 5 years or so, that runs out to the marsh.
When you come back, maybe you can have the sizes and everything on that, just so
You can see it.
would that cover that?
Yeah,
Sam?
I think that's a good idea.
Is this site currently vegetated?
Yes, it is. It's
Completely
currently
wooded.
vegetated.
So would all the trees be cleared?
So the majority of the site, I would say at least 75% of the site gets cleared, with the exception of the top left corner of the lot, which is the 50-foot buffer zone. We would maintain the entire 50-foot buffer on the lot as vegetated.
Okay.
Was there anybody else in the public?
Hi, my name is Dodie Roseman. I'm the other immediate buffer to the property, abutter, excuse me. I would be sitting directly below this property in the bottom left corner. I am a little bit concerned about the way this lot is being built because I have a large retaining wall on my property for my septic system that was required when the property was built in 1989, 1990. I've only owned for about 9 years. But it seems that this property is going to be graded down toward my retaining wall. And I'm a little bit concerned about how water flow is going to be affected there. Not to mention that immediately to the left of this property line, granted, I don't know the exact lot location, but there was a very large pine that came down a couple years into my ownership of the property that came down primarily because of all of the water back there that uprooted, hit my shed and my house. And that just is another factor to explain how much water there is all surrounding this lot. It may not be directly on this location, but everything surrounding it is very wet most of the year. My my sump pump runs usually from January all the way through April. This year is an exception to that, so that could be why the perk tests have been so successful this year. I'm also very concerned about just how the runoff is going to impact my property. If you are in my driveway on the other side of Arlington Street, which is a good distance from this property, it turns into a pond within a day's worth of rain. I have multiple photos from this past week to show that in a matter of hours, it's a lake. I do understand that there are a lot of things being discussed about how to manage the runoff, but I do think that all of those concerns have to be taken into consideration. Our neighborhood has relatively zero drainage all throughout. And even the paved roads end up with lakes on the sides of them in people's yards, in the middle of the road. There's constant road maintenance. And just as another note, they did come in and try to level out potholes prior to all of this rain, and we still have ponds everywhere, all over the neighborhood.
That's Arlington Street you're speaking about?
Yeah, so my house is on Arlington Street, but my yard is basically directly behind where this house is being built. Or proposed.
Greg, would you like to address any of that?
Sure. I have documentation of where the retaining wall is around her septic system. I've looked at the as-built plans. I've been out to the site. We're not going to have any impact on that wall whatsoever. We've submitted a septic plan to the Board of Health. The Board of Health generally is okay with the septic system layout, but they did make some recommendations on adding some drainage along that back property line between this one and the abutting property. So we are making those changes as well on our revised plan. So I think that will alleviate the drainage concern across the lot line. But we won't have any impact whatsoever on that wall.
Just a follow-up question. I know when I spoke to the Board of Health, they did mention that there was a good possibility that a retaining wall would need to be put in for this property septic system as well. Obviously, that's not something you guys can necessarily speak to, but I just want it on note that I would be concerned if that retaining wall would also add to not just drainage issues on my property, but overall overpowering the culvert on Wellington or just adding more water pooling up in that back area, which is very often like a small lake in that whole wooded section.
There's no retaining wall proposed associated with this septic system.
Yes, I know. When I spoke to the Board of Health, he did say that that was a possibility, and so I just wanted to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, as I look at it, Greg, that boulder wall, is that a stone wall or is that a retaining wall?
So that's a boulder wall along the side of the driveway there. So it'd be, to hold up the driveway essentially as you come up the driveway. That's the only wall that's proposed. And so that,
Okay, I see now, so that's 3 feet.
yeah, so that's the only wall that's proposed. It's not part of the septic. That, the start of that boulder wall is likely where this culvert is gonna end up going under the driveway.
I don't think I have anything further at this time. Any other commissioners? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Mary Ann Jarvis, 62 Wellington Ave. Just for the record, I started working with Rod, the DPW, 6 years ago about actually putting in that culvert. And I have been at Wellington Ave almost 28 years at the end of the month. So we've had numerous years of flooding in our cellar with the underground springs that came through our septic, or would be a cesspool back then. On the same side of Wellington, from the corner of Arlington all the way down to Somerville, we have 4 houses there, plus one on Charlestown, that some years we'd be pumping for 4 months. Collectively, hundreds and hundreds of dollars with electricity. The culvert has helped, however, we still get water from the underground springs. So anybody who's lived in a northeaster with a full moon and high tide, that culvert is full. So it's not going to like alleviate the groundwater shifting or whatnot. But I'm not an expert, but it looks like from Texas Street over to the culvert is where the underground springs, and that's very close to that property. And I also know that when Doty's property was built, it shifted some of the underground springs because of that extra perimeter, cement perimeter. So flooding has been an issue for a long time. Like I said, I've been there for 28 years, and we check the water constantly. Sometimes we have to have a sump pump go out the back and out the front down to Charlestown Street because I can't handle the amount of water building back up in the backyard. We have to put it down to go down to the marsh. And that way, we had 4 or 5 hoses going down there. If they froze, it was a hazard, so we had to like go out every day or so and move the hoses to a drier spot. So the water in that area is a huge concern. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to kick the ball down the road, but a lot of this will be addressed by the planning board. They'll do a stormwater review with their engineer. So you should make your concerns known to them also. They get a lot of input on this.
Sorry, I don't know how Zoom works, but is it possible for me to also say something?
Yes, name and address, please.
Thank you, Megan Stemple, 56 Arlington. I'm right across the street from Doty. And so just seconding what everyone has said about Kemp Park, the whole neighborhood is a downward slope from the entrance down to the marsh. So anything that is interrupting the wetlands further uphill causes concern for the rest of us who are a little bit further downhill. My husband actually just went down right now into and this house was built in 1932. So we have like an unfinished crawl space basement. And he said there's 2 inches of water in there right now. Again, this is an unusually dry season, I would say. I agree with Doty. We usually have the sump pump going all spring. So I just wanted to add that even now, during a dry season, there's still a little bit of water down there.
Okay, thank you. I think what we hear is this is why this is an inland wetlands district. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing. Did you give a date, Greg?
It's the early June meeting.
Okay.
Let me check.
You have that date handy, Mike?
Yeah, let me pull that up.
It's, oh,
That'll be the 7th? Or June, June.
And also for you to, my motion also includes for you to investigate, training a third party to take a look at the
Yes.
wetland delineation.
No, I will definitely do that.
June 4th, I think.
So the first meeting in June is the June 4th meeting. I believe planning meeting is June 9th. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
But if we could go to June 4th, that would be great.
Okay.
Wouldn't we want to hear from the planning board?
What's that?
Wouldn't we want to hear what the planning board decides?
Well, they'll have to take a look at the whole street design, make a determination how long the street actually has to be,
Okay.
and whether or not, they'll also do a stormwater review on it, which should encompass a lot of these concerns about the flooding.
Okay.
So I made the motion to continue to June 4th. Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. 10 North Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the notice of intent filed for 10 North Street. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Thank you. All right, Mike, can you please confirm that all administrative requirements have been met on this?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, so the proposed work is in Barrier Beach coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage, and also in the flood zone 803 and VE 18. And you guys are here to present.
Hello, my name's Paul Lauterbeck. I'm with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. I worked on this project with our PE Dana Altobello. This is Arthur Hale, the built constructing the project, and Joan, the property owner. So the existing lot is a single-family house right on Brant Rock Beach, as you can see, with North Street to the west, Bryant's Lane to the right, another residential property to the east. Like you said, it's in a flood zone, AO depth 3. The applicant is proposing to raise and rebuild the existing dwelling and rebuild it, supported on open driven piles, 4 feet above the existing elevation as required, 3 feet for the AO plus another foot. The first floor elevation at approximately 17.6. The existing dwelling is connected to town water and sewer, and it will be reconnected. The new structure will be less non-conforming. It's currently non-conforming, and Arthur is going to be going to ZBA.
Historical was approved last night.
Approved last night?
Historical was.
Historical was approved last night. We're reducing the impervious area because the existing house has a covered porch that wraps around the whole way, and the proposed has a covered porch at the back, but as I understand it, the deck will be open around the side. The material underneath the house will be pervious stones. The existing material that's on site will be used underneath the dwelling, and erosion control measures will be in place, set up prior to construction. Do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you. Yeah, I went out to this location. It's a great little house. I loved it. So, you know, obviously this will be an improvement and more in compliance. Mike, do you have any comments?
Yes, the footprint of the home will be located within the AO flood zone, and portions of the property near the seawall are in the VE flood zone. The proposed foundation will be driven wooden piles with a minimum of 3 feet of clearance to allow for flowage of water and dune materials. The garage and rear concrete walkways are proposed to remain. There are patches of old concrete by the seawall as well. The patches of concrete by the seawall, the commission could choose to have those removed.
So, yeah, out on the Brant Rock side, I saw, if you're looking at the ocean, you know, on the right side there are a few patches of concrete in that area there. Yeah, exactly. So if those during construction can be taken up, be removed. And the only other thing out there was that concrete slab that's kind of like the walkway that goes from,
Right here.
yes, exactly.
Did you say that was connected? It's part of this, like
Part
the
of
structural.
Is it part of the-
seawall.
That was what
Some
I
of
was
it-
wondering.
Whatever's the seawall, we have to leave.
Okay,
Whatever was not part of the seawall, we will remove.
okay.
Okay.
But a lot of that, you'll see this, if you go up there, you see the seawall kind of jets in too. So as long as we don't touch the seawall, we're good with it, whatever else out front has to go.
Okay, and then the steps in the back there by the garage, those are going to remain, correct?
This stuff here is gonna remain. We show it as remaining.
Yeah,
The concrete walkway.
some of it might be gone as
the
we,
garage and
get
the
into
house.
that area, and we will not replace it with concrete.
Right, everything's gonna be
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
all the rocks.
Yeah, because once we get in there, a lot of that's gonna get just taken right out.
Okay. All right, any commissioners have any comments on this project?
Can you add the, do you have a pile plan?
We have a pile plan? I don't, currently, no.
No.
We don't have a pile plan, but
No.
it will be submitted on.
Yeah,
obviously,
it will be submitted,
For the building permit.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll need the pile plan. And these retaining walls, are they gonna stay or be removed?
The walls are, there's a tiny little retaining wall here. Right there, that little, we don't show it as being removed. I think it's really low. It's not even really a retaining wall. It's maybe like a couple surveyors labeled it as a retaining wall, but I think it's more or less 6-8 inch reveal. It's almost like a curb reveal. It's not a full retaining wall.
Okay.
I have some site photos of that, but it's a small, I think it just holds back a little planter bed in the front of that existing house. Might be, yeah, you can see it, it's kind of behind that bush. It's right in there. It's
Well, it looks like
Real
it keeps
small.
back some soil to enter the basement.
it's almost like a little curb reveal, but yeah, it helps to step down to the basement. But since, I mean, is that something that would be?
Basement's going away.
It's probably
I
gonna,
mean, if
it's probably
everything's
gonna
being
get
elevated-
Yeah.
removed when we take the house down, it's probably all
Right.
gonna get, that
We-
whole section.
If you want that removed, I mean, we could have that
It would,
part of the
more than
approval.
likely, that's all gonna come down, that's all gonna get removed as you take that house down,
Yep.
Yeah,
What about the garage?
yeah.
garage is staying.
The garage is staying.
Um, So the deck will be on piles,
Yes, yes.
driven wooden piles?
Driven pylons,
Driven
yeah,
pylons,
everything's driven pylons, the whole project.
What's the name?
South Shore Pile Drivers will be doing the project,
Yeah, or,
all Armstrong.
yeah.
That's the AO for 3. And, for the building.
Right.
Do you have any comments? No?
Yeah, it's like 4.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, 'cause we
Oh, yeah.
use 4 feet above 13, 7.
Okay.
AO 3 plus 1.
But I was, but he was in the 3 feet.
Is there anybody over on Zoom or in the public here that has any comments? Did you guys have something else you wanted to add?
Oh, no, we were
No.
just discussing the
No, we were just
the
discussing the height
dimension
of the
from
beams
existing grade to
the-
17.
to the
3,
bottom beam.
The AO 3 plus the 1 foot.
She didn't want to tear it down. We just,
It's a great house.
I've had, this is the second
Looks like there's a
customer
new
who has
roof
looked at
on
this
that, too.
project. And she didn't know. She really wanted to keep it, but it's just beyond.
Yeah.
We were in there with historical and we were trying to figure something we always try to save something and we just couldn't find anything we could even save in the house. And we reincorporated it into the new house. It's a shame, but it's way beyond what you can fix.
Yeah.
I have pictures where if you go inside the house, the ground is actually coming through the floor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, those windows haven't been in place for a number of years.
Yeah.
With the wind and storms coming off the water,
Yeah.
you can only imagine the inside. So,
Yeah. It's more of a hazard right now than anything.
Mike, do you have any conditions?
Yes, I was
Do you have
just
any other
following
questions, Corey?
Oh, yeah.
general conditions.
Wait.
Hold up, Corey has a.
Corey is not
Sorry,
finished.
Corey.
Is there any vegetation on the site? There's like
Well,
a
it's all
bush.
peach stone, there's that bush.
Yeah, it's just the behind the house there where you see that vegetation.
Yeah,
There's some beach grass on the other side of the house, a small patch of beach grass there, where one of the patches of concrete is actually embedded in there.
Yeah.
So I think in order to get that piece of concrete out, you're gonna have to actually remove that vegetation, unfortunately. Is there any plantings, planned to be put in at all? Just left as is underneath?
Currently, we don't show any proposed, or have any proposed planting.
Okay. That's fine. It doesn't look like there's very good growing conditions there.
No.
so,
No.
It's rocks.
Yeah.
Really, it
Lots of
really
Anything
is.
there.
Basically rocks.
That's fine.
Rocks and sand.
You get some seaweed that washes in, so it looks
Yeah.
like
Yep.
there's something there, yeah.
It can flow through.
I know, I saw it way down
Yeah.
past the garage.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I would suggest the following special conditions: general conditions 1 through 18, which are our standard special conditions. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, to have the site staked out and to have a construction meeting. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to file for a certificate of compliance within 30 days. Erosion control, condition 1, to ensure that erosion control is in place and functional throughout duration of work. And lastly, to provide an information certificate at the completion with the certificate of compliance request.
And a pile plan. Can we add a pile plan to be
Yeah,
provided?
we'll make sure you get a bio plan.
Okay, great. Okay, there's no other comments. I move to close the hearing and issue order of conditions to include the conditions listed by Mike and the removal of the concrete patches. Can I have a second, please?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 535 Plain Street. This is a continued hearing, and the hearing officer is Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Actually, this is a new, I'm presenting this one too. This is
I
a
think you've
new,
got, I think you've got, yeah, you've got
Three.
three in a row here, so,
all right. This is our first hearing for this, 535 Plain Street, Brightway Car Wash.
yeah, it was
We
continued
opened-
because there was
Because
butters.
you didn't have the abutter notices.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, Mike, administrative requirements?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met, and the meeting was opened, the second meeting in April 16th.
Okay. All right. Paul, you going to present the
Yeah,
project, or?
my name's Paul Lauterbach again with Merrill Engineers, and I'm presenting the project at 535 Plain Street with Nick Bercoloni and Chris Morrissey.
Okay.
Basically, the project, it's located at Brightway Car Wash at 535 Plain Street. It's approximately 1 acre of existing car wash facility, driveway area, and existing subsurface drainage galley systems, which was part of a DEP discharge permit project. The proposed project is pretty straightforward. It's just the installation of 2 underground proposed 5,000 gallon processing tanks to reduce the total suspended solid removal on the site, to increase the suspended solid removal. So really, the project is just digging 2 large excavations, putting the tanks in, backfilling and repaving the current pavement area just in the vicinity of the disturbed excavations. All the proposed work is underground for the installation of the 2 tanks below the existing pavement. No changes or increase in the impervious area on the site is proposed. All of the existing stormwater conditions will remain exactly the same post-construction, and there will be no increase in peak rate or runoff or any volume exiting the site. All the existing stormwater management process and maintenance will remain in place as they currently are.
Mhm.
And it's pretty much the extent of the project.
Yep. Yeah, I went out to the site, as you, 139 to your back, it's off to the left side of the structure, it's already, I think it's concrete. I don't
Yeah,
think it's asphalt.
Yeah, it's concrete
all-
pad that's back there.
So essentially, you're gonna put the two 5,000 gallon, dig up the area, put in the two 5,000 gallons, pave it over, so that's the no change in impervious. There's a big fall off to the side, which is the bordering the wetlands area, but I mean, the area is currently paved, no change to the existing surface, it's an improvement. Like you said, no increase in impervious surface, no change to water runoff based on, you know, recovering the area, so it looked pretty straightforward to me. The building commissioner didn't have any concerns or issues with the project. Any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I have one quick, is this part of the reclamation system for the car wash, is that?
It's a tank system for it, increasing it. Yeah.
And then what the purpose, is the current one failing, or is this just a?
Well, we put in a new biosystem into our Norwell site, just basically updating the system to what was 30 years ago. We can do better, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of an overall improvement, it's gonna capture and reuse more water and.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna reuse a lot more water.
How much do you guys estimate, like, on every car wash that it's reclaimed water? as opposed
So on my Norwell site, we're using 8.5 gallons of fresh water a car. So, I mean, on average, you're using about, it's difficult because you have bigger trucks, smaller cars, but on average, you're using probably like 60 gallons of water a car.
And only
So
8 is-
only 8.5 is fresh water, yep.
Oh.
So that's
Yeah.
the hope. This.
I mean, it's better for them, it's better for the environment, you know, it seems like it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have any comments on the project?
Not particularly, I will just point out that it's estimated the current system only removes 30% of suspended solids, where these improvements will remove up to 90% of the suspended solids. So it is a big improvement to the site.
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay. And the commissioners, we're all set? All right, so, Mike, special conditions?
Yes, I would suggest the following special conditions. General conditions 1 through 18 are standard special conditions. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, to have a pre-construction meeting and to ensure the site is staked out, or maybe spray paint where the tanks are gonna go, or just mark up the concrete in some fashion. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to file for a certificate of compliance within 30 days. Erosion control, condition 1, to ensure that erosion control is in place and a working condition throughout the duration of work. And that's
Okay. So, with those special conditions, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue the orders of conditions. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to abstain because I know Mr. Vacaloni and his family.
Okay. So, you got that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think
Thank you.
Good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Be in touch, thank you.
Okay. Next up is the golf course. This is a continued hearing. And the hearing officer is Commissioner O'Donnell.
Okay. Well, welcome back. Mike, all our administrative requirements all set?
Yep.
Okay. And as Commissioner Hannafin noted, this is a continued hearing. There were some questions raised at the last hearing. The town engineer has weighed in with some comments. So Paul, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I think, you know, we presented the project at the previous meeting. I think we're all set with the lighting. That was
Yep.
that was okayed. So I think, why don't you, maybe give a little overview of the project again, and then address the questions that were raised at the hearing and also by Rod.
All right, so good evening. I'm Paul Lauterbach with Barrel Engineers and Land Surveyors with John Harrington and Larry Chofee. The project, again, is a proposed equipment storage building in the maintenance area of the Green Harbor Golf Course. So I guess what was discussed at the last meeting was additional calculations, the drainage system, and to submit the documents, report, and plans to the town engineer, Rod Procaccino. So we did that. First off, we provided drainage system recharge calculations for the infiltration trench, for the stormwater mass, for the Mass Stormwater Handbook, required recharge for the A soils is 0.6 inches, so we did a little work, and we put calculations on our plan to show that the trench does provide this storage. It actually provides more storage. Required storage is 80 cubic feet per the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. It provides 140 cubic feet for recharge. Really, this was the largest size, again, as we brought up at the meeting, for the infiltration trench. So after we submitted to the town engineer, he came back with I broke it down into two comments. His reply was through an email. He said there should be some form of treatment of runoff on the east and west end of the building where the runoff from the site enters the wetland. So me and Dana sat down for a while, looked this over, and ran calculations on sizing 2 pocket wetlands to provide treatment and mitigation. His second comment was the proposed location of the new building is partially inside the 25-foot setback to the wetlands. There should be some mitigation required. So this pocket wetland is providing treatment and mitigation for stormwater. At the last meeting, the infiltration trench treats about this much area runoff, picking up about here. Now, this pocket wetland is going to pick up approximately this area, and this one is going to pick up this area. So it's between the infiltration trench and the 2 pocket wetlands. We're treating with a sediment forebay on the pocket wetlands, as you can see on the details. The runoff goes into the sediment forebay and then works its way through the pocket wetland to a riprap stone pier, which controls the runoff and also treats it. And this sediment forebay with a pocket wetland provides 80% TSS removal rate. We had revised the stormwater report to explain more of all the standards, the 10 standards that we were meeting, and that was the extent of our revisions to the plan and report. Is there any questions?
No, I know, Sam, you had some questions on the calculations.
Yeah, I think this is an improvement to what was originally proposed. And I think the town engineer kind of echoed what I was saying in the meeting. I mean, the site's very constrained with groundwater and the location of the existing improvements. I think it's an improvement and more in line with what we want to see on projects.
And I think currently there was no treatment of the runoff, and now with the infiltration system and the 2 pocket wetlands, I think, that has improved, the runoff.
Yeah, we also explained in the letter that the new building's
Yeah.
almost 9 feet away from the wetlands, as the existing building is about 3 feet
Yeah.
from the wetlands, and we're reducing the size of the building footprint that is
Yeah.
within the 25-foot. So we're bettering the situation with the distance to wetland and the area of building inside the 25-foot buffer that Rod mentioned, within the 25-foot buffer, there should be some, that's also reducing the size and the proximity of the building. This helps in the mitigation there.
So I mean, my opinion is that with these changes, it's a big improvement over the existing conditions. So, I'm happy with it. Mike, do you have any questions?
I have no additional comments, other than I do believe that this is an improvement to the original site plan provided to us.
Okay, all right. And commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right. So, with no other questions, Mike, any special conditions you'd like to note?
Yes, I would suggest the following special conditions, which are general conditions 1 through 18, are standard special conditions. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, to have a pre-construction meeting and stake out the site. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to file for a certificate of compliance within 30 days. And erosion control, condition 1, to ensure erosion control is in place throughout duration of work and remains in good working condition.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know it's a little frustrating to have to go back, but I think we got a much better project.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the whole area is going to be much improved with these changes. So, thanks for hanging in there, making the improvement. So, I'd like to, with considering in consideration of Mike's special conditions, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and permit the building. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is 61 Concord. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the notice of intent filed for 61 Concord Street, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell. Yes, Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Floor is yours, Rick.
Okay.
Administrative requirements?
All administrative requirements have been met.
All right, now, all right, Rick Savant with Stenbeck and Taylor. I got a residential addition project here at 61 Concord Street. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look down here, but this is an existing house that was, the existing house years back was demolished and put up on piles. Current house is on wood piles. And they're proposing an addition off the rear of the house as well as a deck off the rear of the house. We're in a flood zone down here. The barrier beach is very nearby. It does stop on the abutting lot, but I understand, it's the same landform there. But and we also have a salt marsh close by. The closest point of it is across the street. This new work is 93 feet plus or minus from the salt marsh, but what the project is proposing is a 21 by 5.5 foot addition off the back of the home, which will be elevated on helical screws, as well as the deck, associated deck with it. This is proposed to be on sonotubes. And they're also proposing relocate the outdoor shower and trash enclosure that's there currently as part of the project. That's essentially what we're hoping to do is this addition off the back of the home. I've got the impervious coverage there. Of course, there is an increase with the new deck and addition of 265 square feet. And proposing erosion control, kind of encompassing the rear part during construction. So that's generally it, and do my best to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Mike, anything to add?
Yes, as Rick said, the additions will be built on helical piles. There is an increase in the impervious area from that addition. As noted, the brick patio, shed, and generator are proposed to remain. Those are all located in the backyard. Additionally, while visiting the property, I noticed that it may be this property or maybe one of the adjacent properties, but somebody is cutting the Phragmites at the end of the street for vista views. That's only really permittable through a vista pruning permit and vegetation management plan.
I can't speak to that. I'm not aware. I actually did see that, now that you mention it, but I don't know who's responsible for that.
Yeah, and it's soon to be town land. So that's another point. Comments from commissioners? See nothing. I think the project itself is very straightforward. I have no issues. I'd like to open it up for public comments. Is there anybody here? I see nobody. So I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions.
I would suggest the following special conditions: general conditions 1 through 18, which are standard special conditions. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, to have a pre-construction meeting and ensure the site is staked out. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to have to file for a certificate of compliance within 30 days. And erosion control condition 1, to ensure that erosion control is in place throughout the duration of work. And also that an elevation certificate be provided during the certificate of compliance.
And if you, I don't know if you want to add a note about off-site pruning.
Yes, definitely.
I think a letter to the nearby residents regarding that would be appropriate.
I can definitely send out a letter for that.
So I made a motion. Have I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up is 85 Arleta Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, to consider the notice of intent filed for 85 Arleta Street. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Miles.
All right, Rick, you're already on deck, ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
You want to take?
I don't know if
time to
all
explain it?
administrative things have been taken.
All
care of.
administrative requirements have been met.
Very nice. Excellent. Rick Savant, Mr. McIntyre. Another residential project on Arleta Street. This is an existing dwelling. You may be familiar with the garage here. We just recently closed out an open order. This garage foundation has been in the ground for quite some time. The new owners of the property are proposing to finish the construction on the other garage, and also proposing to raise and rebuild the existing single-family home. Kind of an odd-shaped triangle lot, narrow in a lot of the spaces. We've got an adjacent wetland right off the back of the lot, and we're working very close and sometimes in the 25-foot buffer. Mostly with the garage is the only place where it's really close. The garage is permitted and is precisely where it was permitted to go, back in 2010, I believe it was. Since that time, we had a recent delineation of the wetland. It has crept it, towards the upland a little bit. It's a little bit closer to the site than it was. So we're using the record line. We probably wouldn't be in the 25, well, we wouldn't be in the 25 foot, but based on the new delineation, some of the work on of course, the garage is gonna be going up within the footprint. They're proposing a driveway. We're kind of locked into that location on the driveway due to the position of the doors that are there, and it's already within the 25-foot buffer. So we kind of cheated as much as we could on the garage, but still a part of the driveway is just inside the 25, and got out of it as quick as we could. The existing carport and shed that is currently there are gonna be removed and replaced with the driveway. This is all kind of disturbed area, lawn and gravel area that's there now. On the garage, there's also some tree removal proposed, which I probably should have colored the plan a little bit, but I did show the trees that had some flags on it. They're right adjacent to the garage. Since that thing was built, these saplings have grown up. They're literally right against the concrete, a couple of them. There's two out back. In the north corner of the lot, there's also a tree showing that is dead, that they'd also like to remove, that's inside the 20-foot buffer. So those trees are shown on the plan. The remainder of the work is for the house, raise and rebuild, kind of reposition a little bit. It is slightly larger than the existing house in square footage. You can see the increase on the coverage table, which is a little deceiving because a lot of that increase, it's just 2,253 square feet. We didn't count the garage, on part of the existing, even though it was a foundation. So, I mean, it was there, but it was kind of open and dirt bottom, so a lot of that, 900 square feet of that area is what will be a roof on the garage. But the house, being slightly elevated because of the flood area, they're gonna have a slab type of foundation on this, and due to the flood regulations, it needs to be even with the grade. So we set it at that point, and there was a small amount of grading shown in blue on the plan that needs to be done just to make it work with the site. Also, a proposed paved driveway leading to the front of the house for the house part. So it's a tight little lot. There's a lot going on there. The existing situation, so we're trying to do the best we can with it. So I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have, but this is what the applicant is proposing with this project. I would like to point out, we're in the flood zone also. Both structures will be flood vents added. The new house will be properly flood vented, and we're adding additional flood vents to the garage to make that flood compliant.
Okay. So the water and sewer lines that are connecting the house to the garage, have those been approved by Board of Health?
They have it, the sewer department, we've been working with the sewer department on the connection. The existing house is connected. It's not really clear. It's kind of, there's not a lot of records for where the sewer lines go down there. So we do have some verifying field situation. We've met down there with the sewer department. But the way it's going to work is the existing house is already connected, but with the accessory structure, it cannot have its own sewer connection. It has to be an accessory to the primary, so everything's gonna lead back to the main house and tie in. So those are proposed lines between the house and the sewer, and we'll be utilizing the existing connection from the house to the street.
Okay, yeah, the reason I ask is because I think there's some trees that are in that vicinity that could be impacted by that activity, the trenching. So I'm concerned about those trees being impacted through either by,
Trenching or installation of the utilities, sure.
Yeah. So, and so could you maybe add those to the plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's seems like a lot of regrading also. Are you bringing in fill to achieve those grades?
Yep, we're roughly averaging about a foot of fill, although it looks, extensive there. When you look at the actual underlying grades, there is some fill coming there. Corey, you're absolutely right. A lot of that is to accommodate the flood regulations, getting the slab up. But yes, it will certainly be less than the 500 cubic yards for bringing material in, but it averages about a foot in depth, and we did as minimal grading as we could do on the site. But there is some proposed grading there, and a little bit over by the garage driveway also. Just a couple of minor grade changes for the driveway there.
Would you be able to put that on the plan, like how much fill is gonna be sodded,
Quantity fill?
yeah.
Sure.
There's also an existing patio, brick patio.
Off the back of the existing house? Yeah, that's all gonna be removed as, with structure.
Okay. The, it looks like some of the regrading is gonna be along the southern side of the triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that gonna channelize flow there? Because it kind of looks like it might be
We,
heading towards the neighbor.
well, we do have a swale shown in those contours where it's supposed to drain out towards the street. You see those little returns on the contour lines there is intended to create sort of a natural swale, stop that from happening. And pitch it towards the road is the intention, but I do understand there's grading close to the neighbor, but the goal is, and as the grading is shown, it should swale it, pitch it out towards the street, whatever comes off that side. It's,
Okay.
yes.
There was a comment from the building commissioner. I guess maybe he hasn't seen the construction plans. But he says the construction plans for the house are not compliant since they show a crawl space.
Okay, I'm familiar with that regulation. We did make it compliant. The slab may have been subgrade on the plans, which is probably what Andrew was talking about. And we, knowing that, made the slab elevation 4.5 match the lowest adjacent grade around the structure. So probably what Andrew was seeing is something the architect put together that shows a subgrade crawl space, which I knew wasn't allowed, so we lifted it, and which is a lot of that grading is due to that. So there can be sort of an access about at grade in the rear. So they'll have to, we've been working with Andrew on this, but if the architect needs to change the design, but we're certainly proposing the slab at grade.
Okay. He also asked a question about how much fill is being added to the site, and about the new driveway that may require approval from the Board of Public Works for
Yeah.
driveway opening permit.
We'll certainly look at that. If I had another minute before I had to come here tonight, I would have quantified that because I knew we'd be talking about it. But I did a rough calculation. I do believe it's less than 500 cubic yards, forgive me. But we certainly can provide that information and make sure that it is. If they need to get the proper permits, if it's more, we'll do that, but I don't think it is.
So, do any other commissioners have any comments?
I didn't make it out there to this site. Do you think conservation markers would be needed, or is it?
Yeah, I think that would probably be.
Yeah,
Good
they're,
then.
it's right on the,
Yeah.
right on the marsh.
Maybe roughly along
Yeah.
where the silt sock is?
Yeah, I think that's more than reasonable. I mean, we've got a NHESP line at the back of the property, we've got the buffer, and we're along the silt sock line. I think that's more than reasonable.
Yeah, I'd like to also ask for the trees that are gonna be
Yeah.
removed to be replaced. So some of them are in the 25, within the 25, at least one of them is. Well, it's hard, yeah. Those other ones might be as well. So, can you provide a planting plan as well?
Yeah, if we have to remove any of those trees,
Yes.
I mean, we could certainly alter the connections too, to not do that, but I understand if we have to take any trees, we'll mitigate at the requisite, for sure. Yep. I know they're not shown on the plan, Corey. I'm not 100% positive if we located them, we may have. Those particular trees. This kind of sewer situation and this project evolved through discussions with the town and the sewer department, how this needed to go. So I'm not sure if those trees will be impacted by the sewer. They might. But yes, I can get them on the plan, and if we have to remove trees, we'll do what we can not to. But if we have to, we'll mitigate for them for sure.
Yeah. There's also, that has maybe not anything to do with this property, but there's like a bunch of junk being stored at the end of
Yeah.
Marietta Street. I don't know if it's associated with this property, but there's like just a
Yeah,
bunch of
I
random.
don't know. I know the area you're talking about. I don't know whose stuff it is. It seems like they historically kind of used the end of the road there for trailers and things. The neighbors down there. I'm not sure who put stuff there, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's our trailer there, and
Yeah.
I don't know what else. You say, and I'm not disagreeing. You say junk. Is there like waste out there, or is it just kind of
It was just stuff.
stuff?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really.
Like I
much
said, these
time
people
looking
just
at it.
bought this place, so it could have been the previous owners that were using it, or maybe the other neighbors. But I'm sure that it's not, nothing that these folks have done. But I don't know. I know the carport and the shed. I know you're not talking about that. Those are going to be removed, but I can certainly ask them.
Okay. Well, since there's a lot of stuff that still has to kind of be decided, can we continue this? I think I'd like to continue this.
Rick, this is Tyler Rogers. I'm on as well,
Hi,
just so you
Tyler.
know.
Okay, great.
I can address a couple of the items
Sure.
now, if
Yeah,
it's good.
absolutely.
The items at the end of the street are other neighbors not on the property. The tree removal is what is flagged in pink. And that is really just as a safety for the house, I think. We're trying to do as minimal as possible. We are more than willing to add any plantings to make mitigation, because obviously it is in the wetlands. And we will adjust the utility lines to mitigate any tree removal going from through to the street connection. I have been working and sending the plans to Andrew. He came back with a bunch of comments. We were kind of waiting for this meeting to adjust the house design to accommodate what Rick is showing on his plan, to based on the existing grades of the property. So within the next 2 weeks, we will be able to resubmit the house plans based off of the comments from Andrew.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, on the wetland markers, what are we thinking for spacing along there for?
Fairly straight line,
Right.
maybe every 50.
Yeah, I think every 50 is sufficient. It's pretty obvious what's.
So it seems the outstanding issue is the quantity of fill. If we're agreeing to alter the proposed connections of the utilities, we don't remove any trees. And then seemed like the issue was the fill quantity you wanted added to the plan.
Yeah, and then, So he said there was things in pink?
Yeah, those are the trees that were around the garage, the ones that are shown. Those are, there's, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees that, they're currently flagged out there in the field. And may have submitted some pictures of those, I believe, but those are the trees that have kind of grown up over time since the garage was built. You can see them, they're right up against the foundation. They certainly need to go for, so they don't cause any damage to the concrete and just general hazard to, the garage structure as it gets built. So those trees shown adjacent to the garage, and then there was that one tree to the north, near that area where you were asking about stuff on the end of our lead. There's a tree up there that's dead that they'd like to remove. So those trees are shown, and you were obviously mentioning some trees that are between the house and the garage that you were concerned about with the utility connections, but we do have a lot of flexibility to adjust those so we don't remove any trees.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see the trees that are being removed.
Yep.
They are in the 25, right? Yeah, they are within the 25. And also, since it's NHESP habitat right there,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see those replaced. So,
Okay.
Maybe we can close tonight, if we can get that additional information by the end of the week.
We'll do what we need to do. Yes.
Or what about the driveway? The second driveway? Do we need to wait for Public Works to approve that?
Part of our conditions requires that the applicant receive all applicable permits prior to the start of work. So per our language, it would require them to go in front of the DPW before starting construction.
Okay. All right, then, does anybody else have comments?
No, I just did some quick math, though. I think we're gonna be far under the threshold for the zoning board for the 500 cubic yards. So I think we're gonna be somewhere between 300 and 400 cubic yards of fill.
Okay.
The whole property is only 21,000 square feet.
Yeah.
If you filled the whole property a foot, it'd be like 700 cubic yards.
Okay.
So, just to put in perspective, like.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good with everything else, though.
All right, well then, then let's close tonight and then just make sure we get that information over to Mike, but,
Replace the trees that were taken down, mitigate for those.
yeah, conservation markers.
Yep.
And, just calculate the amount of fill and,
Okay. Absolutely. I'll work on that in the morning and we'll get the plan over.
oh, you know what, there's something I just noticed. There's a little shed, a tiny little shed at the corner of the property.
Going away, right?
Is that going away? Not the-
Tyler, maybe you can speak to that, the one on the southerly property line. There's a little shed there, down by the proposed house out by the street.
Oh, yeah, it's the previous owner put their trash there.
Is that gonna stay or go?
You gonna take it out?
I was planning on just leaving it.
Okay, for the
But
trash.
but if that's an issue, it's not a
Yeah.
requirement for me, but I would just plan on leaving it.
No, it's fine. Just wanted to know if it was gonna stay or go. Okay,
Okay,
all right, then,
excellent.
let's close the public hearing. Mike, do you have special conditions?
Yes, I would suggest the following, general conditions 1 through 18, which are our standard special conditions. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, to have a pre-construction meeting, ensure the site is staked out. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to have a to apply for a certificate of compliance within 30 days of completion of work. Erosion control, condition 1, to ensure erosion control is in place and functioning throughout duration of work. To provide an elevation certificate, and during the certificate of compliance process, to implement the Concom markers as discussed on a revised site plan, and then to mitigate for any cut trees. I'm not sure if the commission wanted to condition a 2-to-1 ratio, so planting 2 trees for every 1 tree cut, or some other sort of condition there to provide guidance on mitigation, and then to provide the cubic yardage of fill being used onto the site.
Yeah, 2 to 1 is fine. We,
Sure.
Okay.
all right. I move to close the hearing, issue the orders of conditions. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So now we have 3 continuations. SE 423130, Town of Marshfield, DPW at 80 Union Street. I move that, at the request of the applicant, we continue to the next meeting, which I believe is the 21st?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Continue to 5/21. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
SE 423125, 17 Oregon Road. We have not heard anything from them, so I move to continue to 5/21. A second, please.
Before we vote, Mike, can you I'd like to note that I really don't feel the need to continue past that without any additional information, so you might want to let the applicant know.
I'm sorry, could you repeat
Just
that?
not continuing past 5/20.
Okay.
I think it's been 3-4 months now.
Yeah.
Well, he had asked us to continue to this specific meeting because he was in Florida
Yeah.
and he was waiting to come back. But we have not heard anything, so we have to determine what we're going to do with this because
Yeah, I would just maybe let him know that if his attendance isn't done.
we either need new information or
I think that's fair, and I did have a similar discussion with John Zimmer, his representative, today, indicating that this has been continued without any movement or progression for quite some time, and it may even be in the applicant's best interest to withdraw at this time.
yeah, that makes sense. So I'm gonna move to continue it just to address it, but we're gonna try to, yeah, we've been here before and there's no point in dragging it on forever. Okay, but for now, we'll go to 5/21. A second, please?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And lastly, SE 423131, 91 Old Colony Lane has already requested a continuation to 5/21. I move that we accept that. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have a couple of land donations. Mr. Albanese would like to donate parcel G12-19-18 and G12-10-8. Do you want to say anything about these, Mike?
Yes. So I visited both of these parcels with Mr. Albanese. One parcel, there's a lot of small parcels of conservation land in this neighborhood. I will preface with that. The surrounding properties to this one are owned by either the town or under care and custody of the Conservation Commission. This one on California Street is not abutting necessarily any conservation land. However, there is a lot of conservation land in that area, and as you can see, it's part of a contiguous woodland. So it would be beneficial for conservation land. Other than that, I visited the properties. I did not notice any dumping, clearing, or encroachment on these properties.
Okay. I assume these are not buildable lots?
They're non-buildable lots, to my
non-buildable
knowledge, yeah.
1/10 of an acre.
Yeah. Okay, I move that we accept G12-19-18 and G12-10-08 to be taken as Conservation Commission land under our care and custody. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have Noonan, parcel L05-25-20. This is also .11 acres and is adjacent to a Concom parcel. Where in town is this, Mike?
It's on the corner of Temple Road, and I'm not quite sure
Okay.
what cross street that is.
Yeah, okay, I'm just trying to orient it. And you have no problems with
I
this?
have no issues with this parcel.
Encroachments, no hazards? In that case, I move that we accept parcel L05-25-20 to be taken under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Should
And
probably thank these people for their donation, too.
yes, I think as Mr. Albanese was on there.
He was on. He might have since logged off.
Yeah, we can,
We'll be
yeah,
in touch, I'm
we
sure.
can contact them and thank them. And lastly, we have our meeting dates for July to December 2025. I think everybody's had a chance to look at these, so I move that we accept the schedule from July through December of this year. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes our business for this evening. I move to close the Conservation Commission hearing for May 7th, 2025. A second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
But